What makes MiG-21 a legendary aircraft? And why this legendary aircraft is called a flying coffin as well? And why it has been not retired for such a long time? And what is the reason of the farewell that we are going to see now? Mikoyan Gorovich, that is MiG-21, is going to retire after serving the Indian Air Force for the longest time. It is one of those aircrafts that have bore through India and strengthened India across 4 major wars, but it has been also infamous for being the flying coffin. What was the reason that it was still in service when the accidents, crashes were increasing in number for this particular aircraft? We'll be knowing all about it. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh. Today we are going to understand about MiG-21, which was the longest serving aircraft for our Indian Air Force and also one of the exemplary ones. So when we talk about this particular aircraft, it is going to be finally decommissioned and it would be given a ceremonial retirement, which we will be seeing at Chandigarh Air Base on September 19, 2025. Now, what will this be ceremony about? Basically, this ceremony marks the fact that there will be complete phase out of MiG-21, the variation Bison squadrons, which are in active service as of now. So the phase out has been done, gradually done, and the final marking would be done through this particular ceremony. So when we talk about MiG-21, we have to understand that in coming times, we will be seeing replacement aircrafts coming in the place of MiG-21, marked by HAL. Here is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and in this variation, we have MK-1A. This is India's indigenously developed 4.5 gen fighter, which is definitely an upgrade from MiG-21. Furthermore, an additional point goes to the fact that this is indigenously produced. Now, furthermore, this is all the idea of Indian Air Force, broader idea and implementation of modernization as well as indigenization, so as to ensure security in terms of production of defense goods, defense aircrafts as well. Now, we have understood that where it will be replaced, how it will be replaced, what would be it would be replacing with. Now, let us understand that what is the significance of this retirement that we are talking about it. As I mentioned, MiG-21 happens to be the longest serving fighter aircraft in the history of Indian Air Force. It has served for 62 years almost, and it was the backbone of Indian Air Force combat capability, and we have seen its contribution in 4 major wars. When we talk about its contribution to 4 major wars, we have to understand that after its induction, it was used in 1965, where it engaged Pakistan's F-104 starfighters and also reliable dogfighters. Furthermore, after this war itself, we also saw its contribution in Bangladesh Liberation War in 1971. It gave us air superiority, close air support, and also shot down Sabres and star hitters. Then in Kargil 1999, again this came as a game changer. It conducted bombing runs, especially over high altitude enemy positions, which was actually Pakistan's advantage. And in the recent 2009 Balakot airstrike, it was MiG-21, which was used by Wing Commander Abhinandan Varthaman to shot down Pakistan Air Force F-16, and he was shot down and captured, but he was later safely returned to India. So when we are talking about MiG-21, we get to understand that how it has stood strong with us in terms of wars, in terms of difficult times, and that is why this retirement becomes significant. It marks end of an era where we have seen MiG-21 standing tall, not just for Indian Air Force, but for India itself. But with this legacy that this aircraft, legendary aircraft, leaves with, there is also the infamous name that has been given to you, which can be supported by statistics, which we'll be talking about later. The name that it has been given is the flying coffin. The reason behind the name is because of its accident-prone legacy and the crashes that we have seen associated with MiG-21. We'll be getting into the details of it, but before that, let us also understand another aspect related to origin variation of MiG-21. So when we talk about MiG-21, it is basically Soviet design, not even Russia design, it is Soviet design, and it is a single engine, single seater, supersonic interceptor, or you can unanimously called it as fighter aircraft. Now, it has a delta wing design that gives it speed, it helps in interception, and later it was adapted, it was upgraded, innovated for multi-role usage. This was something that our ally Soviet helped us with. Gradually, we started building it under license through our own country as well. But this was to counter US help that was given to Pakistan back in 1960s, because US was not ready to provide India with F-16s just like it did to Pakistan, so as to ensure that there is no regional instability. This was the reason that was given by US, but it was Soviet that helped us in that situation with MiG-21. And then later, it was inducted and variants were also produced. So the first induction took place in 1963, just after the 1962 war that had happened, and India became the first non-Soviet country to later produce it under proper license. That means MiG-21s were produced in India, and it has the laurel of being the first country to produce, which was not a part of Soviet Union. So over 870 units were either procured or either assembled, and when I'm giving this number, it includes the license built HAL version also. HAL, again, Hindustani Aeronautics Limited. The versions were built in HAL. Can you tell me in the comment section where is HAL located and what is the significance of HAL when we are talking about defense? So when we talk about the number of units that have been produced, there have been multiple variations over the years. So if we talk about the first variation itself, that was type 77. Basically, the earlier models which were used in 1965, 1971, they were of type 77. Then we have type 96 and we have MiG-21 BIS. These were basically more advanced versions and they had advanced avionics as well as weapon. Then we come to MiG-21 Bison. These have been in picture since 2006. They have been upgraded with the help of Russian and Israeli radar. They also have R-73 missiles and better cockpit avionics. And I'm talking about MiG-21 Bison when I say these were the one which have added the laurel to HAL when we talk about their licensed production as well. Now, these are the variations that we have seen over the years. Now comes the question that when it is such a celebrated aircraft fighter which has stood us for such wars, why it has the name such as Flying Coffin and Widowmaker. The reason here is the statistics that are present in front of us. If we look at last 50 to 55 years, we have almost seen 500 MiG-21 crashes. It also has resulted in 170 pilot fatalities, and that is why it is synonymous to pilot risk and training deaths. So we have to understand these numbers are the reason where the name comes in from. Now, when we are talking about these numbers, we have to understand what are the reasons behind these numbers, why and what are the causes that could have led to such numbers. When we are talking about the causes, then we see that mostly it would have been technical defects where we find airframes have aged and they have become obsolete. The systems are old. We have also seen human error associated with pilots' disorientation, especially when we are low-level flying is occurring. Then there have been bird hits, which is very common in low-altitude flights, and there have been infrastructural gaps, such as maintenance, such as spare parts, which are required to make sure that the infrastructure and the suitability of aircraft is not compromised. But overall, whatever the cause that has been highlighted, the numbers have always been concerning in terms of MiG-21. But the question that arises that if that were the numbers, why was MiG-21 still in service and it is being finally retired in coming month? The reason here is if all of the squadrons, especially when we are talking about MiG-21, we would have been at abysmally low combat capability and it would have created a combat capability gap. That is why the squadrons were left there and the gradual phasing out took place. So the Bison upgrade which happened in 2006, that gave us time to upgrade to better models, better options, be it Rafale, be it Tejas, and it also allowed us that there is not a huge combat capability gap in this given while. However, some senior experts have also pointed out the fact that we have to understand the statistics that we are talking about, the accident rate that we are talking about. It is not abnormal given the flying hours of the aircraft if they are considered. So, statistics are basically in association with the number of incidents. We have to look it into the association of flying hours as well, which will give us a perspective that these statistics are not abnormally high. However, if we want to reduce that, then the gaps that we have talked about, the causes that we have talked about, they need to be addressed. Now the question comes, now that this legendary aircraft is retiring, what is the road ahead in front of us and what are we expecting? We are expecting transitioning to modern fighters, modern aircrafts, and this transition that we are going to see is coming through HAL Tejas MK-A1, which is basically a light combat aircraft and it is gradually already replacing MiG-21 squadrons. Then there will be induction of Rafale, Su-30 upgrades will be taking place and there is a possibility of AMCA project as well. This also lays further emphasis on Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially in defense, and modernization will not be limited only to machine. We will be talking about modernization in terms of pilot safety, electronic warfare and next gen combat readiness as well. Now that was all from my side. If you have any doubts or concerns, you can put it down in the comment section. Thank you so much.